Welcome to So Guided, a spiritual travel guide for the curious. Join Carissa and Jenny, ordinary people exploring all the extraordinary ways we can connect to the universe. Each week, they investigate another spiritual modality and adventure through all the wild ways we can find high vibes, hope, and ultimately, enlightenment.
Hello and welcome to another episode of So Guided. Today we are diving into intuition and a new to us word, the clairs, and how understanding the clairs can help you deepen your intuition. You've got questions, so do we. Let's do this.
Welcome everyone.
Hello.
It's Carissa and Jenny here. Guided podcast. Gonna jump right in with my weekly woo-woo.
Yes, let's hear it.
So it's funny, we just did the signs episode, and one of the things in the signs was that you hear names that are random. So it's a name example. Fiona, my daughter, was randomly the other day was like, hey, do you like the name Isla? And I was like, yeah, I do. And she's like, yeah, I really like the name Isla too. And I was like, I hadn't really heard that name before, so I thought it was really cute. Fast forward 2 days later, I am in the drive-thru of Starbucks and I'm waiting there to get my coffee. And the woman I hear, getting the coffee is talking to her coworker. And she literally goes to her coworker, hey, do you like the name Isla? And her coworker's like, yeah, I love the name Isla. And I was like, oh my God. And she came over and handed me my coffee. I was like, that's crazy. I just had the same conversation with my daughter about the name Isla. And it just obviously popped and stuck with me. And I was like, wow, that is a real sign.
Oh man, that's going on future baby name list.
100%. I'm like, Isla. Okay, future daughter.
That. It's beautiful.
Maybe, yeah.
I already love Isla.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Isla. Well, my daughter is a part of mine today.
Oh, wow.
Just a silly little woo-woo, but it relates actually to intuition. They all do, really, if we're honest, right? Yeah. I was cleaning up around the house, and Belle had left a homework and a pencil at the top of the stairs. The pencil fell to the bottom step of the stairs. Now, I'm a freak, and every day to start my day, the decks have to be cleared. I clean the house. So when I was going to clean the house, I did not pick up the pencil. I literally had the instinct to leave the pencil there, which is very strange for me. You've seen my house in the morning. Anywho, fast forward to later that day, you were over recording with me. And Isabel was right outside of where we were recording because she wanted to be near us and not alone in the house, which is so cute. She had her journal, and because she knows we talk about woo-woo stuff, she was writing in her journal to her guides and angels.
Aww.
And her pencil broke. She actually said, oh, no, guides, I don't want to go be alone in my house. And she said she looked down, and there was a pencil on the step she was sitting on. Thought it was so cool. I left it there for my baby girl.
Wow.
So she picked up the pencil and kept journaling.
Oh,
isn't that cute?
And she thought it was a sign because she
told me the story.
She didn't think. She knew it was a sign too.
Exactly. So
double connection.
It got to be a double sign.
Connection.
And then she felt connected to her angels because she was writing to them, and magically, when a pencil broke, a pencil was there. So I feel like it was all interconnected.
Oh my God! Cute. Synchronicity, serendipitous.
Love it.
Nice.
So these are perfect lead-ins to what I want to talk about today. We're getting into the clairs, which relate to intuition. The clairs are a new knowledge bomb for us as we investigate all these things. Of course, we all know intuition, but the clairs are the ways that the intuition are coming through. I'm going to tell you all of these, and it is my hope that because you don't know which clair you use for your intuition, I hope we identify how it's coming in for you and that someone listening might figure out how it's coming through from them. But first things first, before we even get into it, what I think is so important to share is that every one of us is intuitive. Not just a psychic, not just a tarot card reader, not just Jenny. Sometimes when I'm in the zone, we are all intuitive. That is not a special trait. What is important is what level of intuition you allow yourself to see, hear, or feel. We are just innately intuitive. And what's really cool is if you start to hear some of the things, I'm hoping that you get some reactions of, oh my gosh, yeah, that happened to me. And just as an example, I was talking to my husband, Brian, about this. And I said, can you think of any everyday examples where you felt like oh my God, that was an intuitive hit. And most people don't. So like I have one that's pretty simple, but our pipes burst the other day, and it was when it was freezing. And Brian went downstairs and there was water coming from all over the basement. It was raining in our basement. And we don't know this house. We've only lived here a year. She's an old lady, like 115 years old, however old my house is. It's an old house. So getting into the ceiling to figure out the pipes is looking at a gigantic basement. Which part of that ceiling does he go to look for? He literally said, he kind of took a deep breath and had a visual in his head, went to one piece of the ceiling, and it was exactly where the leak was. And now Brian is not woo-woo like us. So I thought it was very cool that he thought of this story right away. It was enough that he was like, how did I even do that? The truth is, everyone has this all the time and every day. And one of them for me too is, and this is what I mean, is like, you get them and you don't know you do. And you just did it the other day when we were talking about one of the ways we get information, and you realized that your epiphany about Nick the day before you met him, you had a thought in your head, maybe this guy I'm going to meet tomorrow is my future husband. Yep. And we passed those off as silly thoughts. And you, how many years later when we were talking, realized it was an intuitive hit?
Yeah. Well, and I've always remembered the story, but I never put two and two together that was a hit that had come to me.
Exactly.
Until we were talking.
Exactly.
Yep.
So I feel like every day, and that's what I want to like stress right now is, okay, sometimes I am going to tell stories that are a little bit next level because I've been paying attention, but I want you to pay attention, and I want you to pay attention. So just another example, my brother, and I feel like I've done this too. He had a meeting and he didn't prepare for it, and he prepares for every meeting. And there was just something inside of him that was like, I'm not going to prepare for this one. And the meeting was canceled because somewhere inside of him, his intuition was like, yeah, this meeting's not going to happen. And I feel like that's happened to me before. Think about it. You know, like when, let's say someone's going to come over, so you need to tidy the house. And for some reason that day you're like, yeah, I'm not going to do it. And it's because that person ended up canceling and they weren't coming over your house. There's little everyday things all the time. It doesn't need to be a big knowledge bomb.
You know what's funny? As you're saying this, it's making me think of little ones. Nick, my husband, does this where the other day I was talking about, the nanny coming tomorrow. And he's like, she's not coming tomorrow. I'm like, why are you saying that? And he's like, I don't know. He's like, I just got a feeling she's going to call it sick. And the next day she did. And he was like, see, knew it, totally knew it. And like kind of a funny way, we're like, well, maybe it's because, she was sniffling or whatever the case may be when you brush it off. But no, it's just he had a hit and he followed it. Yep. And like that's exactly, it's a small one, but you're right.
That's right.
It's always happening.
So yeah, I think one of the coolest parts about this subject is once you realize that you have it innately, you were born with it. Every one of us was born with it. And it's how much we recognize it and how much we listen to it, right? So obviously the part B to this conversation is how to increase it. But for me, part one is awareness. Just let yourself know you're an intuitive being. So,
and I think too, adding to awareness is acknowledgement. Like once you acknowledge that it is intuition, you're more apt to feel and see and notice it.
Yeah. I want you to start celebrating it. Say to Nick, congrats. That was a good hit. Like we should start telling each other's. Let's be like, oh, wow, that was a good one. Honestly, we're doing it every week when we do our weekly woo-woo. And I think the more we start talking about it, the more we realize this is our sixth sense is a part of us. Yeah. It's not a movie that happened in 1990s. It's it's a real thing that we have.
Well, and you know what, you make such a good point too, because when we think about our weekly woo, sometimes we sit here and like, I don't know if I have one this week. And then as we start talking, I realize there's 100.
Exactly. And I think that's our practice of why we're doing it. It's like, we've said this is to keep us in the flow too, but like, honestly, that's intuition. We all have it. I don't want you to listen to this for 1 second and say, well, I'm not one of those people. You actually are. And there are different ways it's going to hit us. So just like we process information in the world and all of us are drawn to our different senses, in the same way, our intuition is hitting us in different ways. So that's what the clairs are. And I'm going to explain what the clairs are. And then we're going to go through them. And I want to figure out which one you're getting it. Before I do it, I will say that you could be more than one and often are. Be open to that. And I do think once you start to realize what it is, you might recognize when they're coming in. And that is my goal. All right. So the Googled definition of the clairs. is like radio waves, information is constantly being broadcast around us. So it's really just a matter of learning how to tune into it. To interpret what is broadcasting, you'll be using your 5 senses, just like you do in your day-to-day life. And just as many of you feel that some of your senses are more reliable than others for making judgments, you have senses or clairs that are stronger for connecting with spirit or universe.
Nice.
Very cool.
Very,
right?
Yep.
You're tuning into that. All right. So the first one is the most common. It is clear seeing. It is clairvoyance.
It's honestly the only one I've heard of.
Okay. Everyone's heard it.
I know that there's more from having this, this list, but clairvoyance is the one that is common to hear. So that's the only one that I would really be like, okay, I get it. And clairvoyance to me, when I've heard it, I know it sounds like ridiculous, but I didn't even realize it meant seeing.
Yes.
Like I just thought clairvoyance is people who get messages, and that's just people who get messages are clairvoyant, and that's the overarching everything of intuition. I didn't realize that there are multiple senses, and that means the seeing.
I agree. Until I heard the first time I heard the clairs, I thought that too. So clairvoyance is not left for psychics and readers and astrologists.
Yeah.
No, clairvoyance is all of us. We're clairvoyant when you have a dream. That's a visual, and it comes through. We're all clairvoyant in one way, shape, or form. So this is visions or flashes in your mind's eye or your third eye. Dreams are a big one for that. Or seeing color, or just getting a visual in your head of something, and then you see it.
Oh, so dreams count as clairvoyant?
They do.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
Because they're visual.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, yeah. Okay.
Right. So examples of being clairvoyant are, if you like to see things written or sketched, visual people, you might be a visual person, and jobs or occupations that surround people that have a tendency towards it would be artists, builders, photographers, designers, people who are very visual. Another identifier of it is when you talk to someone, when you relate to them, you might say, I see. So they're telling you a story or a feeling. You're like, oh, I see. And that's your agreement to them. So that might be someone saying I'm having a bad day or whatever. Oh, I see how that would be a bad day. And that's your reaction. So there's everyday little things. So visuals. And then of course it does mean being clairvoyant in the capacity that we also think. A psychic that gets it through visual downloads. Yeah. But they did say in the readings that I was going through was that most people think that's the only way that psychics get information.
That's what I was saying.
And that isn't true.
That's
There's
exactly
so many other ways.
Right.
And I'll tell you, this made me happy because though I know I'm intuitive, this is something even before we started getting into this, I knew that I was intuitive. I used to think it wasn't psychic or of any importance because I very rarely get visuals. That's not my mode. My mode is another mode we'll talk about down our list. And I think that's really fun. So just because you don't see doesn't mean anything. And likewise, if you've ever tried to meditate and you're a person, some people meditate, and if they're in a guided meditation, the visuals just pop in front of their head. And here's an example. If you close your eyes right now, close your eyes.
My eyes are closed.
Okay. Red apple. Red apple. Red apple. Do you see the red apple when you see it?
Yeah.
So you can actually have a little bit of clairvoyance.
Are there people that wouldn't?
I don't.
Really?
Mm-mm. Can't
red
see
apple.
it.
Wait.
I'm going to try it.
Wait, I have to do a different thing.
Pick a new thing.
Palm tree.
Nope.
Palm tree?
Nope.
So what are you seeing?
Nothing.
Wow.
So this is a funny trick of nature. So that you have a tendency towards it, and just knowing you and being honest, you report to me about your dreams all the time. If you have a strong visual recollection of your dreams, this is a tendency towards clairvoyance.
Wow.
Okay.
All right.
Good. Okay.
Good.
So moving on, we know clairvoyance. All right. Clairaudience. This is clear hearing. It's hearing words or sounds in your own mind's voice. You hear messages that are calm and clear. So when I was giving you how a clairvoyant might say, I see, to relate to someone, this one would be, I hear ya.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is pretty common.
Yeah, I do think that's,
I think that's
common.
Okay. So clear hearing, the everyday, the kind of occupations you might be as a singer, a writer, a public speaker.
Oh, okay.
Things related to speaking and hearing. So for this one I relate to. I get the clear hearing a lot in meditation. So I'll be meditating, I'm very quiet, and I'll get a couple of words that are very directional, very calm, very clear.
Yes.
And whenever I get it, it doesn't feel like my ego chirping mind being an asshole in my meditation, telling me that after this I need to go do the dishes and get the house clean before I start my workday. It comes in so clear, so clean. That's clairaudience.
Did it say, does it mostly come through in meditation or when you're...
No.
Okay.
It could hit you in any time of life. This could be too, I think we talked about this, but if you're driving and you suddenly hear turn right and you randomly go the different route and you got it through the words, very clear directions, and it's an audible sound. Have you ever had that? I think you told me once that that happened to you.
I'm trying to think of how this applies to me and if it applies to me, because I do get messages in voice, but I think that's one of the things I question a lot, where I'm like, is this ego or is it like my own mind making it up? Because I do hear things. I think one of the ones that is, and I also sometimes wonder, okay, here's a question. So you remember how I got a very clear stay soft one time in a meditation?
Yes.
Is that Clair audio? That is. Okay, so I did, when I was in a meditation, a guided meditation, I fell asleep. And when I woke up, the voice, I heard a voice. I don't even know if it was my voice. I guess it was. But it was just, I heard the word stay soft. And so I didn't know if that was a guide or that was a message, but that would be how clairaudience works. So that's a very, so I do have that.
And I think there's a couple of identifiers with it. This is actually not something I read, but something that I just innately know to be true, is it's calm and clear. When our ego speaks to us, it's schizophrenic, it's mean, it's judgy, it's all over the place, and it's dewy.
Yeah, it's busy.
It's busy.
It doesn't always have to be mean, but it can be busy. And it's not always mean, but a lot of times it's very like keeping you on track.
Yeah, keeping you on track, and you got to do this, you got to do that. This will be a very clear message, like your stay soft. And what's so funny is you told that story to me a long time ago. I love that. I've heard it since you've heard it. You got that guided message, and I love it because it was so unusual for words to come out of your mouth, so it felt strong to us when you told us. Anyway, you for sure had that. So you do have a peekaboo of clairaudience, my friend. All right. Clairsentience is next, and that's a clear physical feeling. This is the one that's most common for everyone. This involves physical feelings, emotional or energetic feelings. This is when you have gut instincts. This is when you have warm fuzzies. This is if you're an empath.
Is this like when you walk in a room and you're like, oh, that guy's giving me bad vibes?
Exactly.
Or you get good vibes from certain people and you automatically feel drawn?
Yes. Okay. So many of us have this. This is gut feelings, strong negative or positive about a person or a place. We get the chills. And interesting on this one is we could be tuning into our own feelings or someone else's. So if you're heightened with clairsentience, that's also being empathic. We hear the empath word all the time. Empath is when you strongly feel someone else's emotions. So if you walked in this room and I'm having a bad day and you could just feel it by walking near me. And this is very common. I think everyone knows this one. When can, or even your child, sets your mood, or your husband, sets you off just because of how they're feeling. That's actually this one. It's that Clair. It also could be positive. Like you get the warm fuzzies. It's a good feeling, good vibes. So wait,
is the empathic if you're an empath, you're this Clair?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. But you can have this Clair without being an empath.
No, you would be an empath.
Okay.
I think they're
interchangeable. Okay, cool. Okay.
Yes, totally.
Yeah, I think that's one. I do like this one. Is this the same as if you get goosebumps?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
For certain
this is a physical or emotional feeling, right?
That's funny.
Head, heart, or body.
Yeah. When I thought about this one originally, I thought feel. I'm like, if you touch something, you get an energy. I am definitely more aligned with this and get it way more often than when you read the list to me and I was like, if I feel this rock, will I get an energy? And I don't, so I like this one now.
And it can. I think all of these, I'm trying to speak to the lighter everyday things.
Yeah.
Each of these has their increased version. So this one would be the one where the psychic needs an object. A medium needs an object to connect to a past loved one.
Yeah.
This would be them. They'd be doing this, and it probably leads them to clairvoyance from there, but this is their entry. And that's exactly why they all go along, and increasing one over the other is wonderful to do. The more you do it, they could lead into each other, which is pretty cool.
Oh, that's really,
So, of course, all of these have a ranging scale, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll talk light to heavy on them then. So this one is, I love that the little Google session I found related to some of the jobs you could have. So this one says you might be a doctor, doctor, a therapist, a counselor, a nanny, a teacher. The words you'd use to relate to someone is I feel. So you're telling me a story about a bad work day and I'd be like, oh, I feel ya.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's a common.
I feel like that's a common one.
I
feel like that's a common one. I say I feel it. Like
I think I say that most.
I feel that. Right. I say that all the time.
And as I said, this is the most common one that people might relate to.
Wow,
and it's the most common that we all have. So that's cool. All right.
It's cool it's the most common, but I've never even heard of it as a Clair. Right. I've only heard of clairvoyance, yet this is one that you're right.
We do every day.
It makes so much sense to me.
I know. Well, you know what's funny is I honestly feel like this should be taught to children. Could you imagine what we'd do with the world if we were taught about this? That why are we not tuning into something that exists?
Well, and are we encouraging it?
Encourage it. And I digress from the subject totally because I really do want to circle back and tell you how to truly strengthen your intuition one day. We will circle back, but it's just such a wonderful, beautiful, large topic. I think it needs a separate day to talk about it, but I will just put this nugget out there. We've read a lot of books about increasing your intuition, and quite a few of the ones that I've gotten into are based towards business. And it's amazing the big tech giants of the world and industry leaders who have already figured this out and are leading their businesses through their intuitive nature. And there are business-oriented courses on intuition. It is not a woo-woo subject. In fact, of all the things we're going to talk about, I venture to say this is least woo-woo. This just is. And the people that, by the way, are killing it and slaying it in the world have figured this out. So true. So don't pass this off because this could literally help your business. It could help your real estate decisions. Like, it's something that once you tune into it and then you increase it, like, it just gives you a better life. We have a skill that we're not using all the way.
It's 100%. You're trusting your vibes. Yeah, and you're listening to the different things. And if we were encouraged when we were children to do it, and some people are, and they keep it going forever, and that's so much better. I remember this has always stuck out to me, when Conrad was like 3, we were at the mall, and he all of a sudden looked stark white, and I was like, what's the matter? And he was like, that person over there, he's like, I don't like them. And I'm like, what? And I looked, and it was just like a woman. He's like, I don't like them, I need to go. I wasn't like, no, don't worry about it. I literally got up and left with him. And he had this bad feeling about this person, and he just had to go. He was so little, and it was it was scary to me, and I didn't know why. It was like a woman. It was like, she was over there, and I just remember being like, okay, let's go. And I got a bad vibe once he did. And I think kids are so intuitive, but we kind of like, in that case, I think it would not have been weird if I was like, don't worry about it, honey, you're fine.
Exactly.
And I'm not saying like I'm like some like amazing mom for like getting up and leaving, although I will pat myself on the back. But I don't think, a lot of times we make kids try to feel better. We're like, no, honey, don't worry. She's fine. We're here. You're safe with me. No big deal. Don't worry about it. And that slowly has kids start moving away from the intuition that is so there when we're born. And again, it wouldn't have been something that would have been bad if I had done that. It would have just been a different approach. Right. And I think if we're all instead encouraged when we're younger, we'd be in a whole different world right now.
That's very cool. That is very cool. That's such a good example. I think just our children, any children around you, whether it's your niece, nephew, whoever, or your own children, I think that they're the ones we should be taking some cues from. We need to listen to what they're saying. It's not nonsensical, and they're in touch with something that we let go of in our adulthood. Yes. Honestly, that's really cool. And I think that's a cool mom moment where you like trusted him. Yeah. And you're right. That would have been a lesson in subduing it. So thank you. Right. You get a star, a mom star for that.
But it wouldn't have been bad because I think we are taught to subdue it because you're taught to make your child feel better. Yeah. And so because you're taught to make them not worry and you're taught to like help them not be scared, and he was scared. So I could have gone that route, and it would have been also a good mom moment, I would have thought. But upon further talking about these things, it's like, no, we have to encourage you to trust your instincts, and then they build.
Totally. They build. That's cool. That is clairsentience. That's a really good example on Conrad. All right. Clairsalience, clear smelling. We've laughed about anything relating to smelling because I just cannot relate it. But this is smelling in order that doesn't have a physical source. And I think that this is something that happens, like where you randomly smell a perfume and it's the perfume your grandma wore. I, outside this house, smell cigars at a certain place, and I have no doubt that a previous owner, it's their cigar spot. I actually know where it is. I smell it all the time.
We were together one time, and you were like, it smells like chocolate. It smells like chocolate. Do you have chocolate? And I was like, no. What are you talking about? Do you remember that? We were like somewhere together, and you kept smelling chocolate. And I was like, you got something around you, girl. Like you got a spirit or something, like waving chocolate at you, because I do not smell anything.
That's hilarious. But yes, this is an interesting one. So the example is smelling perfume or smoke of a deceased relative, or it could be a connection to a distinct memory from your past or a past life. So it has many levels where, I mean, just on a basic life level, a scent can physically take you back to the perfume I wore when I studied abroad in London.
Yep.
If I smell this one scent that I had at the time, I am in my apartment in London. Yep. I'm there. So it can transport you. So this is, that's actually that good feeling where you're like, oh man, I'm there right now.
Yep. I love. Okay. And it actually reminds me of going back to Clair audio with like music transports you. I don't think of it as smell can do the same thing, but it does.
Music transports.
Like as from hearing, really but one. Like going to smell, like that also does it. And I just never think about that one.
1,000,000%. That's a good one. All right. Examples of occupations would be florist, wine taster, perfume creator. I thought those were fun ones.
Yeah.
So very scent-oriented scent. I like the wine taste.
You know what's interesting? This has never happened to me. I don't think of scent as being something, but the other day I woke up and I smelled like someone had like lit a match, and I like woke up from my bed and I thought of this. I knew we were going to be doing this episode, and I was like, this is like a scent that we always laugh that we don't have it. And I guess, I woke up, I smelled it, but I had no connection or why. And so I've been thinking about it a lot though, like what it meant or what, because that's the other thing, like when you get a feeling or something sometimes, or like a scent or any of these, I don't always know how it applies.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. I don't know. One thing I've read is to keep a journal. If this is of interest and every hit you get, you write it down. Now, this is the pot calling the kettle black. I have been meaning forever to keep this list, and I never do. But what I love about it is this list becomes evidence too.
Yeah.
We love our evidence collections.
We love.
But could you imagine if you let your everyday hits, like Brian's pipes story?
Yeah.
All right. And if I said to him, you know what? For like 6 months, keep a journal somewhere in the house. Notebook. Let's not call it a journal. No dude wants to fill out a diary journal. All right. Have a notebook somewhere and just write the things that you're like kind of finding are right.
Yeah, like a wow.
And then I wonder how many we'd have after 6 months. I would say a lot.
Yeah.
And then it would expand upon itself.
Right. And it would inform you how you're getting the information.
Exactly.
If you're not so sure. Because sometimes in these I'm like, oh, is that how I get it? Do I do that? Like you'd start getting probably more
and like, you know what? Let me be clear too. We have a tendency towards needing to identify and categorize. My point is for you to see how it's coming in. It does not need to be one or the other or categorical.
That's true.
You could be all of them. I think the idea is if you've noticed a standout, that's awesome because it might be your first way to start to see into this world. Okay. So like now what's new for you is you might notice smells. So now maybe we triggered that in you. You're going to like pay attention next time. Whereas you would have passed it off as a nothing. Right. So let them be all. Don't worry about getting categorical. This wasn't my Clair. This wasn't my best Clair. No. We have them all. So like have fun with it when you get that hit. All right. Clairgustance is clear tasting. It's the ability to taste something that isn't actually there. This one is a hard one to come up with one, but
Clairgustance.
Clairgustance. And on side note on the clairs, there's multiple words that people use. I think there's variations on each one. So for the purpose of this convo, these were the ones I picked that I read the most often. So clairgustance, clear tasting. So have you ever had a bad taste in your mouth would be the example of that one. That person left a bad taste in my mouth would be your everyday term, right? Okay. Or if you randomly have your mouth just tastes sweet, maybe if you're having a happy day. This one's a little harder for me to relate to, but this is something that, and as you can imagine, the occupations kind of awakens the subject for me. Chefs, baker, food writer, food critic, their senses come alive through taste.
Yeah.
Right? So their clear tasting is they taste, so like a food writer might say, I tasted this dish and the chef took me to their childhood. That chef or that writer was writing deep thoughts in a beautiful poetic way, but they're actually touching in that taster, that food writer was transported to that chef's childhood. Now, if I went to that restaurant with you to dinner, I'd say, this is amazing. I don't feel that person's childhood.
Yeah.
So some people have this.
Yeah.
And some don't.
Oh, that's such a good point. Well, you've heard certain people be like, oh, I can taste this was made with love. You can taste the feeling that is put into into the
exactly.
food.
That's so cool.
That is cool.
Right.
I think this one's so neat. And someone had said that they had this, like they have this exact one in the past. And I was like, that's so weird. And one of the tips they said and how they get it better is they use a tongue scraper.
Oh.
And they said to use like, if you want, you can like build on this one too by getting a tongue scraper. And I do use a tongue scraper. And it's supposed to help heighten that Clair.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. You're cleansing it, right? You're cleaning it. It's ready for taste. All right.
Yeah, ready for this. Yeah.
Send us the link to your tongue scraper. We'll all try that. All right.
Copper.
Okay. Going in with the last strong one that I think a lot of people will relate to is claircognizance. This is clear knowing.
Oh.
This is when you just get a download. This is just knowing. When you just say the comment that you just know to be true, I'd relate it back to your nick.
Yeah.
Your nick was a download. I don't know if it came through as a voice or a knowing. And it's okay. Again, let's not get categorical. Yeah. But this one, maybe your nick comment is more of a knowing. It's literally just resonates as a truth.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is when we have knowledge of people or events that we would normally not have knowledge about. Truths that pop into our mind out of nowhere. And this can also include premonitions of something that's going to happen in the future. Nick did say how the nanny wasn't coming. He either heard that in a voice or as a clear knowing. So this one I love. I get this all the time. This is instantaneous insight. You know when you just know? This is also obviously, if someone's telling you a story you might relate to. I know, I get it.
Yeah.
I know.
Okay.
This one I feel like is probably common along with what did
I get this one.
Yeah.
I get this one at work a lot where obviously I have a big team and we're trying to hit goals and I'll just be like, I know we're going to hit it. And like when I have to show data and I have to show how I'm getting it, but there are times like I'm not even worried because I know we're going to get there. And I do that. And I just honestly like, no, I'm not sure how it's going to come and how it's going to come. I just know. Right. I know we'll hit the goal. I know I do get that one a lot as from a business standpoint where I don't get overly worried about certain things. I just know it's going to happen.
I get that. I love that in work. But I also relating it back to work because I have a true, honest, if everyone could work on this intuition, could you imagine if we spend some time working on developing your intuition, how much that would lead in your career? You're already utilizing your knowing, your claircognizance, right? But what if we increase it? How much more money can you make? And I don't mean to be superficial. I think you guys know enough that we're not, but like it could bring such abundance to your world by following your intuition. So clear knowing, I'm not even, if you haven't noticed, getting into too many of my examples on this one. And clear knowing maybe is the one where I tell stories, but I feel like my entire life has been guided by this. I feel like I trust my knowing.
Well, that's the point. I think we have to highlight that point. Please. A lot of times probably many of us have knowings, but then we second guess it.
That's right.
We don't trust it. And that's when our ego jumps in. And in order to build on this one and to let it continue, it's to trust it.
Right. Trusting. It's funny, an everyday kind of example of watching this go down is I'm an interior designer. So I present different visuals and ideas for clients. And it's really funny to watch the psyche of different people, of the people who I'm going to tell you right now, I can actually see, this is actually a knowing. Before I present it, I already know which of my design concepts someone's going to pick. I always know. I just know which one they're going to pick. But what's funny is I watch people react. They know what their answer is when they see my design. So let's say I gave them 3 family rooms, completely different looks to pick from. And I can always tell their instant reaction. And they'll give it to me. I'll see it out loud. And then there are the people that need to psychoanalyze all 3 back and forth. Let's go through them all. And then there's a few of the people in the world are like, nope, got it. Thank you. No, it's the right one. That's my future family room. And I've witnessed it in front of me. And the other people, what's really funny is often we end up through many emails and conversations later, go back to what they knew first. So like knowing to me too is trusting first instincts in life.
Oh, that's good.
Your first instinct is the right instinct.
Yep.
Then ego comes into play. So for me, this is the one we probably can really work on. We all know, like, have an immediate reaction to something. That's the one you should psychoanalyze. If you're going to be an analytical person, go back to the first thought. The first thought was your thought.
I'm the worst at this because
I love you very much, but
I'm the worst. Well, not even from design. Like, you have helped me with design, so you know me firsthand there. But I tend to know something and then second guess and be indecisive, and my ego gets in the way. And I feel like that has been something that is hindered me a lot because I do get indecisive over decision making when I automatically know.
You knew. And actually, one of the people I was thinking about was when the day I sat with you, you had an initial reaction. We went and talked through all the others, but that's where you landed. And by the way, let me also say that that's okay and that's our human nature.
Right.
What I'm posing to all of you is to maybe start considering how knowledgeable your first reaction is. Start trusting in it. All right. So that's a big one.
That's a good one.
That's a big one.
I like
that. So I'd ask you going through
and
this.
so is the Clair, because others are senses, is the Clair like your heart sense? Do you know what I'm saying? Because you know how like the clairvoyance is basically vision through your eyes, audio is your ears, smell is your nose, taste is your mouth?
I think this is the intuition
I'm trying to categorize.
You're categorizing. No. The clairs are the way we receive intuition, and it's through our senses. So yes and no. I mean,
so
I think
is it knowing like the all five working together, maybe?
Maybe.
I don't know. Because you know what I'm saying? How they all... No, you don't like that? Jenny doesn't like this question. But it's okay because it's like a real question though. Because if they all are associated with senses...
I'm blank on this one.
Yeah,
I don't know. So anyway, I'd say of the list, we've talked about clear seeing, clear hearing, clear physical feeling, clear knowing, clear smelling, and clear tasting today. What would you say your top two are?
Good question. I think clairvoyance would be, I see. I think I feel, which I didn't think I had that one. And after the way you described it now, I definitely feel like that's a big one. I say I feel all the time. And I do think I get vibes on people in places. Maybe the knowing, because I do get hits where I know things. If I trusted it better, I think I'd probably get more.
Exactly.
Oh, maybe it's think. I think. maybe I answered my own question. You did. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's like your knowing is like your brain, but letting it be your intuition. Because I do say I think a lot.
Yeah.
And so it's like in your head.
So I want you to start paying attention. That is your homework assignment.
Okay.
And I hope that when you're listening, something resonates in you where you're going to start paying attention. You're pretty special, everyone.
What's yours?
I would say my strongest is the clear knowing and the clear feeling. And then with a swish of clear audio. Yeah. I think those three. And I work on them all the time to try to do it. So that is another conversation. Would you be interested in hearing how to improve these one day?
I would.
Hello?
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah, obviously.
So we will do that. And in the meantime, pay attention to how special you actually are. You have a cool superpower that you can actually increase and pay attention to.
Yeah, I love it.
You just got to unlock it. That's the Clairs, guys. You met them. Now go have fun with them.
And they work well with your signs.
They work well with your signs. That's right. All right. Have a great week.
Have a good one. Thank you for listening. We've loved being your spiritual travel guides and hope this made you feel more connected. Please leave a review on Apple Podcast or your favorite podcast player. Your reviews help us create the guide that you are looking for. We'd also love to hear your stories.
You can follow and share your experiences with us on Instagram at So Guided Podcast. Your story might just be our next weekly woo-woo. Join us again next week as we continue to dig deeper into the universe. And remember, stay curious, ask the questions. You are so guided.